On behalf of the entire Planning Committee, welcome to the 2022 Keene National Conference. I'm Erin Jablonski from Bucknell University. This year we meet again virtually, but all the more appreciative of our collaborative, close-knit community. This is the 15th Keene National Conference, and we're thrilled to welcome 472 participants, 103 institutions, people from 35 states and 4 countries. If you're new and there are 212 new folks, please introduce yourself in the Whova chat with your name and institution. And so far, it looks like there's been some trending this morning. Your school mascot. Bucknell is also the bison, so shout out to North Dakota. As much fun as we'll have over the next few days, we all look forward to when we can meet in person again. If you've never been before, an in-person Keene National Conference is well known for tasty snacks and generous meals. So please come to KNC in 2023. In fact, if you remember the Snack Shack in Tempe or the Texas barbecue in Dallas, go ahead and post that in the chat. Let's see what we get here. So even though you can't go get a Ben & Jerry's at the Snack Shack or meet new friends at the social, the tradition of feeding participants well continues. In the conference emails, you were provided with a virtual meal card that has $25 of value and can be used anywhere listed under the allowed vendors. Those funds will be available during the conference, and don't forget to use it because it expires on Friday night. Now for some conference housekeeping. If you made it here right now, congratulations. I hope that means you have navigated Whova and are comfortable with the platform. Each of you have a customized agenda with your selected workshops. Both days begin like this one. There'll be a keynote followed by 2 workshop sessions and a closing plenary. The Keene National Conference often employs a theme. In past years, you may have seen those. This year, we're returning to the roots of the shared mission, a focus on entrepreneurial mindset. If there's one theme this year, it's highlighting EM and really making it actionable. You're going to see that in all the proceedings and certainly in the workshops. We think you'll enjoy the plenary sessions and keynote presentations, which are all action-oriented, whether it's navigating a practical understanding of value when creating value with new tools, and we'll hear from the creators of the value-sensitive design methodology, or understanding how EM shapes the careers of our graduates. We'll hear from a Keene partner graduate 10 years after, now a system architect at Rivian Automotive, or digging into the intrinsic elements of EM. We'll hear from director of a national program who's become a spokesperson for individual action and expanding your focus, your locus of control in the development of an entrepreneurial mindset. So thinking about the conference, set yourself one goal today: to meet someone new you'd like to collaborate with. You may be wondering how you go about that in a conference like this, how you go about connecting with folks. There's a couple of ways. You can do that through workshops, continuing to use the Whova chat. You can do it through Engineering Unleashed. You can go on a person's card. You can open up the discussion at the bottom. Also, email still works. You can find all of people's contacts information through Engineering Unleashed or through their information in the Whova app. So also some practical details to make this a terrific conference for everyone. If you go into Whova and check out the community tab to connect with other attendees via specific topics and groups, that will be helpful as you're moving through your workshops and other events throughout the day. Other resources can also be found on the KNC group for the conference on Engineering Unleashed. Jordan from Keene is going to drop some stuff in the chat here, so please pay attention to any links that come up to you so you can stay connected with people and resources beyond the conference. All right, so now for the exciting part, what are we going to be doing today? This morning, we're going to hear from some Keene partners, DeAnna Leitzke and Joe Le Doux, sharing about the power of community and how our community enhanced their ability to utilize curiosity, connections, and creating value as they lean into the pandemic, and discuss how using EM helped faculty and institutions weather a turbulent few years. Finally, you won't want to miss the chance to meet the 2021 Keene Rising Stars, and we should congratulate all of them for the work that they are doing. So right now, let's turn it over to DeAnna and Joe to get started.
Good morning.
Good morning, DeAnna.
Good morning, Joe. So we're going to try something different this morning. I would like you to start by holding your arms out just like this.
Oh boy. Okay.
Got it, Joe? Okay, we're gonna look a little silly, but that's okay. 40 was a really big year for me. 1 month after joining the 40 Club, I had a bilateral total knee replacement. Yep, 2 bionic knees in 1 day. No, I'm not a runner. Everybody asked that. I was just blessed with 2 kind of crappy knees. That surgery was the 7th surgery to fix my problem. And I was actually looking forward to turning 40 because that was the soonest that my doctor would agree to giving in to the inevitable. 2 months later, when I was still using a walker, I started my doctoral journey. My boys were 6, 7, and 10 years old. And I was working full-time as an associate professor of architectural engineering and construction management at MSOE, as well as serving as chair for servant leadership. Looking back, I'm quite certain that I was crazy. I vividly remember walking into my first day of Summer Institute as a doctoral student. I was wearing my indestructible Timbuktu backpack. I had my summer tan and I was using my walker with the fancy skis so that I could get over the rough pavement. There was a photo booth as I walked into the Summer Institute. It was run by all of the final year students. They were on the end of their journey and they were welcoming us as new doctoral students. I couldn't bypass the photo booth as much as I wanted to. And I remember walking awkwardly up to the photo booth with my walker and finding the sign that resonated with me most at that time. It said, "Be brave," and I held it up to my chest as they took my picture. Later that week, we all sat in an auditorium together. People who are now my friends were still strangers to me at that time. And I looked for a friendly face to sit next to, someone by an aisle and someone who didn't look too scary. And I found Khalid, who looked actually just as scared as I felt inside. The last speaker came out and asked us to hold our arms out, just like I did with you about 90 seconds ago. It feels a lot longer, doesn't it, Joe?
Feels like about 9 hours ago.
It does. He talked and he talked and he talked. And then finally, a song started to play. What song do you think that was?
Lean on Me, maybe?
It was. Lean on Me came out. And if we were all physically together today, we would have the advantage of resting our hands on each other's shoulders at this point. But too bad we're not. So your arms are going to be very sore tomorrow morning. Just joking. You can put your arms down now.
Whew. Thanks, DeAnna.
Okay. So while I listened to that song, at that moment in my life, I didn't realize how many more times I would think about that moment and think about the relief that I felt when I put my hands on Khalid's shoulders. But I also think that what it made me realize at that moment in time is that I was not alone. It's been a rough 2 years. I think we can all agree. It's been a rough 2 years. Honestly, it's difficult, I think, to describe the trauma that we've all been through as we've navigated the pandemic. But more importantly, we all experienced that trauma in a different way. Some of us felt alone and separated in our homes, and some of us felt trapped with too many people in our homes, everybody trying to learn and work and just make it through the day. The pandemic has took a toll on all of us in a different way. I had to take some time away from writing my dissertation. I couldn't manage it all, and that made me feel like a failure. However, I sit with all of you today, just 4 weeks away from defending my dissertation. What is important is how I got back into my research. Last summer, I took about 3 weeks off of work. I have a 12-month contract now, and so I usually work during the summer. During those 3 weeks of vacation, I moved into Cardinal Stritch University, where they gave me a student office. That's where I'm a doctoral student and not an administrator. I surrounded myself with my professors, and each morning I left my boys, who are now 16, 13, and 11. I'm wondering how many of you are doing the math right now. And I prayed that they would make good choices throughout the day as Mom left and went into her student office. What happened was magical. My writing flowed. It felt great. But the lesson that I learned that was most important during those 3 weeks is I realized that I needed to feel part of my doctoral community again. My writing stalled when I stopped leaning on my peers and my professors. Ultimately, I am reminded of the importance of community. If you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. Being here with all of you this morning helps bring this message home for me. Keene is a community. And last year, I told you, you are my people. The past 2 years have been tough, but we have managed to serve our students through all the challenges because we've been leaning on each other. I'm here this morning with someone who I've leaned on during the pandemic, the amazing Joe Le Doux. Joe and I had the pleasure of getting to know each other during the Keene on Story experience. Oddly, he is someone that I had only met once, maybe twice in person before the pandemic. And Joe, you're someone I now consider a friend. I would like, maybe you could start by sharing what the Keene on Story experience was all about for those of us that weren't a part of it.
Absolutely. And DeAnna, I consider you a good friend too. And just an amazing person. So I love to have a chance to talk with you about this stuff. Yeah, Keene on Stories. You know, we were planning the annual leadership conference, the pandemic hit. And then, you know, the good folks at the foundation said, well, we're going to do it remotely. And let's turn lemons into lemonade. And let's make this like a learning opportunity for all the leaders. And let's focus it on storytelling, which sounds radical, right? But the thing is about stories done well, they're like a really phenomenal, like memorable way to share what entrepreneurial mindset means to each of us, and just to get to know each other better and get to know ourselves better. And so what we did was we reached out to my good friend and master storyteller, Janice Schaefer, and she was kind enough to join our effort, and she formed a group of about 10 of us. And DeAnna, you and I were really lucky enough to be part of that amazing group of folks. And she shared with us some of her secrets of storytelling. And we got to know each other really well through that process. But at the same time, each one of us had a group of about a dozen other Keene leaders. And we met on a regular basis and shared stories and learned the art of telling our stories and about how we in our own different and unique ways have been entrepreneurial minded and so forth. And the amazing things that these folks have done just blew me away. And so really got close with those leaders as well. And the thing is so basically a lot of Keene leaders have been through this process. And so I would wager a bet that, you know, most folks at this conference know at least one or two of those folks that might be at their universities. And so I hope they'd reach out to those folks and find out about what storytelling is all about, how it promotes EM and so forth, and how it helps you connect with each other and students better. So that's the gist of the Keene on Stories thing. And as you mentioned, you know, it also struck me as kind of unexpected, I guess, like how well we got to know each other, even though we were remote, better than what we had sort of gotten to know each other in the face-to-face stuff. And I think that's because we were so intentional about sharing each other's stories. And like, for example, I remember you I think of you as like sort of a small town girl, grew up in a small town, determined to make a difference, right? And I might be getting the details not quite right, but I seem to recall as a 7-year-old, you were like on a swim team with older students because your chair throwing highly intense coach thought you were ready for it. And he was right? But the thing that's most remarkable for me is like, and I don't remember the details of exactly what your mom was doing. I assume she was getting a degree while she was a mother and probably working, I don't know, but I know she had this really critical exam that she was taking, and you and your siblings scrounged up some quarters and dimes and got on the public bus and went over to where she was taking the exam, and you looked through the window, and I'm sure when she saw your smiling faces, it made all the difference to her. It helped her succeed and crush that exam, I hope. And the thing is, it's like come full circle for you. You just said in 4 weeks, you're defending your dissertation and you're a mom, and what a role model you are for your kids. So I just, the meaning of this for you must be amazing. So I just think through stories, we got to know each other really well, and we can now support each other as we move forward. That's really what the Keen Stories experience was about for me.
Oh, I agree. For me, the way that we were able to build community virtually was amazing. I look back and I think about it often. I think part of it was the stories we were sharing, right? We were sharing bits and pieces about who we, our authentic selves, who we really, really are inside, and that brings you together. But that we were able to do that virtually, it feels like something that if I was thinking about it in an ideal situation, it's something that is kind of intimate, and you want to all be together to be able to share those stories. But we were able to do that virtually. How do you think we were able to make it feel that way in a virtual setting?
Yeah, I mean, I think that, besides, I think the thing that Janice did, that we did with each other, besides just learning how to tell stories in a way that made us feel like we were there with each other during these key moments in our lives. I mean, the main thing and I think this is something that we can do together at this conference. Janice had some very basic rules that we all committed to. And the most important was, let's just be here now together, right? Be present. It's so easy to get distracted by emails and texts and other things that we're worried about. But the truth is, life is lived one moment at a time, and we just have to be present in that moment to really get the most out of it. And I think if we all do that, that's probably all it takes mostly, but there were some other things she said, like one is that we're all teachers and students, right? So we all have a lot to share and to learn from each other. One of the things I've already mentioned, or I don't know if I did, I forgot already what I've said, but she said perfection. And this is a perfect example of imperfection, because she said perfection is a down payment of disappointment. And that really resonates with me, because sometimes we're always trying to be this ideal self. And the truth is, we'll never get there. And so why bother to try? Let's just be our as best, as do the best we can. And it helps sometimes to look backwards at all the things that you have accomplished, right? And to remind yourself, you and I have each done a lot of really important things, meaningful things over time. And that helps, I think, offset that desire to be perfect. And then the other thing is just, if you're not having fun, you're doing something wrong, right? So I hope that we bring this attitude, that we all bring this attitude, even though we're remote, that we bring that to this conference.
Absolutely. I agree. Why be here if we can't have fun together?
Exactly.
I like that one a lot. Another thing that struck me with the Keen on Story experience was, as we were all telling our stories, I could see the entrepreneurial mindset in so many of the stories, even from Keen leaders that weren't talking about anything related to their, being a professional or their institutions, talking about their personal lives and things like that. You could see that these Keen leaders really live the entrepreneurial mindset. So we're not just helping to develop EM in our students, we're living that experience. And I think a lot of us too, during the pandemic, we leaned on the entrepreneurial mindset in a bigger way to help us as leaders really get through the day by day of the pandemic. Can you think of anything that you did specifically to embrace EM during the pandemic?
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree with you. I think about March 11th, 2020, and everything changed for me and for all of us. At least at Georgia Tech, the first sign that things were going to be different was they extended spring break by a week, so that we could spend a week, the faculty could spend a week preparing for teaching remotely. We thought for a couple of weeks or something. Not very long after that, we realized the whole semester was, face-to-face was down the tubes. And that was a tough time, right? I mean, most of us have no experience for that. Not to mention, we're trying to figure out how to do that at the same time we're trying to take care of our own safety and the safety of our family. The only way out of that, particularly looking backwards, was to be entrepreneurial, basically. You have to innovate your way out of it. You have to learn your way out of it. And so I thought about it a little bit, and I can, number one, I was curious, right? I was curious about my students and about my faculty. What were they struggling with? And by curious, I mean asking them proactively to hear their stories and what they were struggling with, what they're concerned about. Same thing with our faculty. I made connections between what I learned from that but I also looked to the literature because I'm kind of a learning sciences geek. And how do people learn when they're suffering from trauma? And basically all of us, to some extent, some much worse than others, we're going through some trauma. And the thing that basically I learned is that, our executive functioning skills drop off. So simple things that we could do for our students was to simplify things, number one, to be super clear about our instructions and repeat them over and over again, to be flexible, and to reduce the stress. Like, don't give a midterm and a final, for goodness sake. Give a bunch of little tests along the way where the stress levels are minimal. And even probably most important is just to be vulnerable with students. Again, to share your stories with them, to share that you're struggling too. One of the things that I did at the top of every one of my classes was take some time for that. I would share that I was newly, excited about bluebirds. This is a little present I got for Christmas. See if I can get to make a sound here. Oh, it's not working. Anyway, I was into bluebirds, so I showed pictures of my bluebirds in my bluebird house and stuff, and just to let them know I'm a human too, and this is where I'm getting some solace. And I would ask them, I would anticipate that they're having trouble getting exercise or sleep, so I'd say, what tips do you guys have for each other? What do you do that works to help you sleep or get exercise and so forth? So we kind of built a community, as you mentioned, to lean on each other during those times. And that's basically it. I think looking back, the main takeaway I get, because I'm hoping we're getting out of this pandemic soon. A lot of us have moved back to face-to-face classes, and I think it's really important that we remember what we learned about teaching during the pandemic and bring that to our teaching, and not just go back to the way we used to do things, because actually get better from it. Like so many people still, probably a lot of people in the network maybe don't do this so much, but it's still prevalent in engineering education. There's a lot of lectures that still go on. And the idea there to me is like, well, my job, the thinking there is that as a professor, my job is to sort of transmit the information, what I know, to my students through the lectures. And if that was true, when the transition to Zoom would have been like seamless, right? Because I can just share my PowerPoint slides and explain them clearly, and everything would go swimmingly well if that's all that was important. But I think all of us experienced that wasn't nearly enough, right? Wrong, that's not enough. And so that what tells me is like, I kind of knew this in my head, but now I really know it like in an embodied way. Like there's a lot of stuff that goes on, even if all you're doing is delivering a straight up lecture when you're face-to-face. Like there's little encounters before class with students, after class with students. When you're there, you have eye contact. You can infer, like, are they getting this? Are they struggling? Were they tired? Are they obviously sleepy because they had a rough night last night? And you can respond to that, right? And it's going to be different for all the students, perhaps. And then they can have little side conversations. As much as we don't like that, they're kind of maybe helping clarify things for each other. They are probably talking about what they're going to do tonight, whether it's to study together or go out to a party or something. So there's a lot of stuff that turns out is really important. And so if we have to do something remotely, then what it tells me is we have to intentionally realize that stuff's not there anymore, and how do we make up for it? But also, I think the larger lesson is it's about, as you mentioned before, building a community. And for people to learn, they have to feel, I think they can do their best if they don't feel this way, but it's hard. But if you feel like a part of a community, and there's this word called belonging that's become really prevalent. And there's a definition for that I love, which is that people feel a sense of belonging when they feel indispensable. Can you imagine, like, if we were to help teach in a way that all of our students felt indispensable? I think learning would go through the roof, right? So, and it starts with little things. So, just paying attention, asking them what they're going through, showing that you care. And I think no matter everything that we do basically has an impact, however small, and we have to remember that in our teaching and basically in everything that we do. So that's what I came away with from the pandemic. I think the entrepreneurial mindset really helped me adapt to the situation and also helped me learn some stuff that I'm going to take with me long after the pandemic is in our rear view window. rearview mirrors, I guess it is.
Oh, I hear you. I think that's actually one of my fears, is that we don't learn from this experience. How disappointing would that be if we didn't take all the learning that happened over the last 2 years and really bring that forward in a lot of different parts of our lives? And I love your definition of belonging and being indispensable. I am so going to use that in the future. I think one of my big takeaways in leading change during the pandemic, that we need to exercise empathy. That's huge. And I heard that in what you just shared, the really understanding different perspectives, different perspectives than your own. And everybody experienced this so differently. And that piece just was really loud to me, how important that was. The importance of effective communication. I heard you share that.
Sure.
Right? Because we all just, even when we're not stressed, I think we all need to hear things a few times for it to really resonate. But during those traumatic events, you need to hear it even more. And then that intentionality around collaboration. Those are three things in my mind that I'm really making a promise to myself that I need to hold on to and keep. How about this? How about you and I make a pact to each other that next year, when we see each other in person at the KNC,
Yes.
hopefully somewhere very warm and sunny and lovely.
Awesome.
Can you ask me what I've done to make sure that I'm enacting empathy and tapping into that part? Can you ask me what I've been doing to effectively communicate and where, the big wins in collaboration? Will you ask me that and hold me accountable for not letting go of these lessons learned?
If we get to do it over a beer, I'll definitely.
Yeah, and more wine, but
Okay,
yeah,
that's fine.
that sounds
Cool.
good. That sounds like a really, really good
I will
plan.
definitely ask you about that.
Okay.
Next year we'll get together.
And I'm going to ask you who you made feel that they were indispensable. I'm going to ask you about
Fantastic.
that. Deal?
That's a deal.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for chatting with me this morning. I think this was a great way to start our KNC off, and kind of speaking on the indispensable side, we get to kick off some individuals who are truly indispensable to our network, our keen rising stars. So
Awesome.
on to the next. Thanks, Joe.
Yep, you're welcome. Great seeing you, Deanna.
Bye.
To help celebrate and recognize faculty achievement, each Keen partner can nominate individuals with less than 10 years of experience as a faculty member for the Keen Rising Star Award. This award recognizes individuals who are driven by the entrepreneurial mindset, who have gone above and beyond to instill EM in engineering students, and who pursue innovative EM-related opportunities that create value for others. Rising Stars will receive grants to their institution from the Kern Family Foundation so they can continue to pursue and expand opportunities, inspire and directly impact others, and ensure sustainability of their work. Please join me in congratulating this year's top Rising Star Award winner, Heath LeBlanc, from Ohio Northern University. The committee was impressed by Heath's record of achievement in creating and promoting entrepreneurially minded learning, and we believe that your future with Keen is indeed bright. Heath, the committee noted many accomplishments and impacts in your nomination, but we were particularly impressed with your own words as quoted by Dean Yoder in your nomination letter. Even while working as an automation engineer in 2007 to 2008, there was still a disconnect between what I saw as the engineering aspects of my job and what I saw as the social business and networking sides of the job. However, through my deep involvement with Keen, I've learned how integral value creation is to engineering, and that engineers don't solve interesting problems. They solve important problems, where importance is defined with respect to the value created by the solution. In recognition of this Rising Star Award, Ohio Northern University has received a $25,000 grant from the Kern Family Foundation to advance Keen's mission through a project led by Heath. Congratulations, Heath. Now, I'd like to introduce you to our next Rising Star, Reva Johnson from Valparaiso University. Reva, the committee noted that it was clear that entrepreneurial mindset drives you in your work as an educator and researcher. You have included EM in everything that you do, from your use of student curiosity as a motivating factor in your classes to your work redesigning your first semester engineering course into an interdisciplinary EM-directed project-based course. The committee was also impressed by your work intertwining the concepts of creating value and storytelling with your Council for Engineering Inclusion and Equity. Its mission to have intentional conversations regarding race and gender helps students recognize that their story has value is important too. We believe that your contributions to faculty development create value for all members of Keene. Congratulations, Reva. And last but not least, please join me in congratulating Andrew Sloboda from Bucknell University. Andrew, the committee noted your strengths in using entrepreneurial mindset as a driver of your work as an educator. This is especially clear in the innovative real-world roller coaster project in which you encourage students to both see and feel the role of dynamics in the design process. The committee was also impressed by the work you have done to engage Bucknell alumni in bringing their professional experience back to the classroom in order to inspire engineering students. You are generous in sharing your materials with other faculty on your campus, as well as with faculty in the network, in order to influence and improve student learning. We believe that you embody the curiosity, creativity, and connection that are the hallmarks of the entrepreneurial mindset. Congratulations, Andrew. Now, let's take a few minutes to recognize and hear from our 2021 National Keene Rising Stars.
So grateful for all of the Keene leaders across the network who spent so much time and effort nominating faculty for this Keene Rising Star Award. And I'm especially grateful to all the members of the Keene Awards Committee. I feel so blessed to be able to work with this wonderful group of educators and administrators who are inspiring students across the country to enhance the potential for success through the entrepreneurial mindset. I'm excited to describe my plan for the Rising Star Grant Award. After discussing with my dean, J.D. Yoder, and consulting with the Kern Family Foundation, I'm pleased to announce the establishment of a new teaching award for the College of Engineering at Ohio Northern University that will be called the Innovation in Mindset Teaching Award. This new teaching award will recognize and celebrate ONU faculty who implement innovative ideas that support their students' mindset, implementing things along the lines of the entrepreneurial mindset and the 3 C's, or the other 3 C's of the Keene framework, namely collaboration, communication, and character. Things like motivation for learning and creativity, as well as diversity, equity, and inclusion, and sense of belonging. I believe that supporting these mindset attributes in our students serve to help fulfill the Keene mission, to help our undergraduate students create personal, economic, and societal value through a lifetime of meaningful work. My hope is that this teaching award provides a motivation for our ONU faculty to continue to innovate in ways to support the entrepreneurial mindset of our students in a way that's inclusive and it values the diversity that's present in the spectrum of humanity. I also hope that this award may be a legacy of the efforts of our current leadership at ONU to help us sustain the value that we have around the entrepreneurial mindset at ONU beyond the tenure of the current leadership. Finally, I hope it may be an inspiration to other institutions who may consider replicating a similar teaching award as a relatively low-cost incentive to celebrate their Keene faculty champions who serve undergraduate engineering education so well. Again, I'd like to thank humbly all those involved with Keene and the Kern Family Foundation for this recognition, as well as the platform to share with you my ideas for the grant, and hopefully that will sustain some of the good work that ONU has been doing, and hopefully will inspire others. And to be honest with you, I'm looking forward to playing that Keene guitar.
Hi, everyone. Thank you to Keene and the Kern Family Foundation. I've got my cool microphone right here. And congratulations to Heath and Andrew. I've really enjoyed meeting people through Keene and learning from so many of you about entrepreneurial mindset, about teaching and research, and just about how to have fun and not be boring. I'm also really grateful to my colleagues at Valpo. I really love working with all of you and learning from you every day. With this Rising Star grant, I plan to develop an interdisciplinary writing course that includes both technical writing and creative writing. In our current technical writing course for engineers at Valpo, we often say that technical writing involves communicating with a variety of different audiences, which may or may not include other engineers. So I thought it would be great for our engineering students to actually practice this communication in classrooms with students of many different majors. I'm working with the chair of our English department and other English professors to create a course that benefits both our engineering students and students from arts and sciences. We have a couple main goals. One, to develop the ability to communicate technical information effectively to a variety of audiences. And two, to explore how our own identities are affected by technology and ability. That's where the creative and reflective pieces come in. Part of the inspiration for this course came from a conference I attended last year, virtually, of course. The conference was focused on rehabilitation engineering, typically a pretty technical, pretty clinical conference. Last year, though, one of the keynote speakers was Molly McCauley Brown, a poet and writer who speaks and writes beautifully about life as a person with cerebral palsy. I was blown away by how much her words impacted me and how cool it was to have a poet and writer at a technical conference. I think a perspective like hers is so important for bioengineers and really anyone who designs technology for humans. So with this Rising Star grant, I'd love to bring this perspective and this experience to our students. Hopefully we'll have some fun being creative, communicating about self, technology, and ability, and making some great connections across different disciplines. Thanks again, and I'm looking forward to the rest of the conference.
Hello, my name is Andrew Sloboda. I want to thank Keen for this award to Bucknell University. I'm excited to have the opportunity and resources to explore a question that's important to me, which is how do students translate their learning to more complicated analysis and design scenarios? A lot of what we do as engineers is abstraction or modeling. We take complicated things and we reduce them to simpler concepts or math so that we can do analysis. But I think equally important for our students is seeing where they can take concepts and other things they've learned, perhaps skills from class, and see where those things apply in real life. It's a kind of reverse abstraction or generalization. I think you've all probably had students who can do all right on exams and maybe homework, but then when they're faced with a more ill-structured, complex task, like a senior design capstone project, or maybe they're going out into the workforce, sometimes they can't connect the dots. Why is that, and how can we help them do better? So as a first question, I'd like to explore whether or not concept-based learning, so think about things like peer instruction or concept testing, does concept-based learning actually translate into better performance for students on analysis or design-based tasks? By teaching concepts really well, can we help students to do better recognizing these things in the real world? And then secondly, I want to ask the question, are there things that we can do as instructors to help facilitate the making of these connections to real life? Is it as simple as asking students to go out in the real world and identify where they see certain concepts? Or is a more structured approach appropriate, where we might have students do something like analogical comparison between a simple concept-based question and something that's more complicated, maybe a design task, to really drive home how those two things are connected. Regardless, I think helping students to make these connections are very important because when they can do that, they're going to recognize opportunities to apply their skills, and that's going to unlock a lot of value for them and for their employers. So again, thanks for this award. I very much appreciate it.
Wow, those were fantastic. We look forward to seeing the impact each of your projects will have on your campus and beyond, as you help instill entrepreneurial mindset into the curriculum for engineering students. To learn more about each of the 2021 Keen Rising Stars, please check out their stories on Engineering Unleashed. The link is available in the chat. We hope these Rising Stars stories inspire you to think of the rock star faculty on your campus and the impact they could make if they were to win the 2022 award. Nominations are open and will be accepted through February 28th. The link for the nomination form is in the chat now, in the community board, and will also be in the conference emails you'll be receiving. While you are thinking about who from your campus would make a great nominee for the 2022 Keene Rising Star Award, please join me in congratulating this year's winners one more time. Congratulations to Andrew, Reva, and Heath. Fantastic work.
Hi, my name is Heather Dillion, and I'm here on behalf of the Keene National Conference Steering Committee. I invite you to please join me in giving a virtual round of applause for DeAnna, Joe, and our rising stars, Heath, Reva, and Andrew. Thank you each so much for sharing your experiences, inspiring us with your projects, and demonstrating the power of this collaborative community. If you attended the networking event yesterday, you may have seen some familiar faces and hopefully met a few new ones. Over the next 2 days, we will learn, connect, and collaborate through our shared mission to graduate engineers with an entrepreneurial mindset. A mindset that helps our students to create personal, economic, and societal value through a lifetime of meaningful work. Or, as I like to say, to be the very best version of themselves. Please take a few minutes now to reflect and recharge before diving into our first breakout session, which starts promptly at 12:15 p.m. Eastern Time. The link and the details for your session can be found on the My Agenda tab on Whova. And have fun.